Hi everybody, and today I'll be covering, oops, load this and put that to the side. So today I'll be covering this weird algorithm problem in VJudge, which is also known as CSEC, yes, sorry, 1068. So let me give you a little breakdown what I'll be doing today. So I'll be going over the algorithm, going over my work process, my implementation, which I'll be using Python to do it, and then walk through my solution, basically. Okay, so let's start with the problem. So I already read this problem multiple times. I already did it multiple times. So I'll give you like a simple summary of what the problem wants us to do. So the problem is basically stating, given a positive integer n, if n is even, divided by 2. Otherwise, if n is odd, then you multiply by 3 and then add 1. Repeat this process until n becomes 1. So let me run through the example right here. In this case, n is equal to 3. So we have n is equal to 3. 3 is odd. So odd, since it's odd, we have to multiply by 3 and then add 1, which will make it 10. Now, since 10 is even, we'll divide it by 2, which will make it 5. Now, 5 is odd, so we'll multiply by 3 and add 1, which will make it 16. Now, 16 is even, so we'll divide it by 2, which will create 8. Now, 8 is even also, so we'll divide it by 2, it will create 4. And 4 is even, so we'll divide it by 2, it will create 2. 2 is even also, and 2 will divide it by 2, it will create 1. And then we'll stop the implementation when you reach 1. Okay. So now that's basically the a walk through the implementation of this. So now I'll go over the input and then the output before implementing it. So for the input, it's basically asking us it can only contain an integer n, which start at 1 and then ends or is equal to 10 to the power 6. And then now for the output, it's a line that contains a sequence of all values. So all these values in between, it should be printed. So it's very important to keep that in mind. Okay. So now, before implementing, I'll walk through what I'm thinking and how I'm gonna go about to solving this problem. So I'll be using a while loop to solve this. And then how the first function, the while loop, and just make sure to check if n is equal to 1. So if n is equal to 1, then we'll get out the while loop. Otherwise, if n isn't 1, then we'll get in the while loop and then implement through it. So at first we'll print the n, and then after we'll check to see we'll have two conditions, odd condition and an even condition. The even condition using mod, we'll check to see if it's even. And if it is even, then we'll divide it by 2. Otherwise, if it is odd, then we'll divide it, well, we'll multiply by 3 and add 1. So given that, let me just code this real quick. So while n is equal to 1, okay, so we'll print n and then comma n is equal to 2 space. So what basically this is doing is making sure everything is on the same line and there's just space between the first and the second print. Okay, so what we'll say, we'll have a condition checking to see n mod 2 is equal to 1, meaning we're checking to see if n is even. Oh, sorry, if n is odd, not even. So n mod 2 is equal to 1, checks to see if it's odd. If it is odd, then we'll multiply n by 3, and then we'll add 1. Otherwise, if it is even, then we'll just say n divided by 2. Okay, and at the end, we'll just print n. Of course, that means we're out of the while loop. And yeah, that's the end of our function. So this is a good function that should be working. So now we have to read the input and run it. So meaning we have to have an input reader. So input reader would just be simply asking the user for his input, knowing that it has to be a integer. It will just be int and input, simple like this. And then we just gotta call the function. Of course, if we don't call the function, it's not gonna work. And this is a working solution. Sorry. So now we'll just test it. I'll just copy it right here. I'm too lazy to type it. And then, yeah, we have a working solution right here. So the same output as we wanted over here and also over here. So now the runtime on this is basically big O of n, of course, and then the space complexity is just big O of 1 because we don't really store anything. And yeah, so this is how I solve this problem. This is my approach to it. If you feel like there's a better approach to this, I'll also be curious and interested in knowing about it. And yeah, Python, I feel like it was the most simplest way to use it because I have the most experience with it. And the implementation was very simple in Python due to the while loop and then just the if statement just to check. And yeah, that's it for today. Thank you and see you next time. If you have any question, let me know.